I have a personal experience about sickle cell anemia, of which I have 16 of my siblings that I lost to this particular incident or this particular disease. I am a carrier indirectly. My genotype is AS, which basically I am a carrier. And in terms of selection of a wife to be, must have to come with some tests going through doctor's advices. It has a lot of challenges, but until you come much closer before you get to realize how risky, disturbing, and quite durant or quite stressful it is. When we were young, I thought the sickle cell is like a witchcraft kind of attack, attacked from all kind of superstitious belief is surrounding the issue of sickle cell when we were young. When we were growing, then we get to realize that it have a medical solutions to it. It's not something that is superstitious as we used to think of it. The stigma there was that most of the people in the community believe that they are abnormal people. They have some kind of superstitious thing attached to them, that like they are demon possessed kind of set of people. But we get to bring them closer because they are the only members of families I do have. So I do not give them that stigmatization like the community does. There were no medication when we were in the rural area then. They have to come to the city to seek for medication because most of the delicacies were cooked home affect their system, thereby bringing them always on beds and sick. Some of them dies even. It was quite a tougher one. Sleepless night. The whole family get to be exhausted overnight because of the challenges one of the family member is going through. They cried every night, and they cried through the night of pains, and a lot of challenges that comes attached with it is what they may have eaten before going to bed comes as the result of what we will pass through the night. I belong to the Fulani tribes, of which I have been saying it, and it's much in the Fulanis. The what do you call the sickle cell anemia is much in the Fulanis because of marrying your cousin or marrying from the same bloodline or client of the same family produce much and higher number of sickle cell anemia victims. Sickle cell is a disease that is in the bone marrow. Most of the people are getting to understand now that it is not a superstitious anymore. It's a gene that clashes with another, which they produce something that is in health, which is the offspring or maybe the pregnancy who comes with that. When my parents were young, actually, there was no issue of knowing your genotype before getting married. All they felt was that they were healthy, so then anything that comes, they are already healthy. None of them is showing any symptoms of weaknesses or any illnesses as of then. So they decided to get married because they were married and nothing much. So there was no genotype. It is of recent, right from, I think, is it 98 or so, if I could remember, when there was an issue of trying to know your genotype before getting married to avoid the sickle cell anemia because it's avoidable. But then my parents were healthy, and so they got married just for marriage sake, but there was no any genotype test that took place then. It comes from a personal belief of my father, because there were only 3 in his family. So he wanted an extended family. Remember, a Muslim and a kind of a polygamous family, he wants more of his children. So to inherit from where he stopped, because there were not many in the family, and he happens to be the only male child among the 3 siblings, of which 2 are female. So he decided to go extra in making that. Though he has seen it, because it has come from the people before our elder ones, then those that came before us, and those in our own kind of age mates in the polygamous family. So all these things have come together, believing that only God can intervene, kind of a belief as a Muslim, say everything that comes from God. So he keep on doing that, and because of the thing, as I told you earlier, he's the only male child and want to have more children that will inherit from him on. I could remember when I was young, I was even telling my mother, I wish I could have been a sickle cell victim, because the treatment that were given to them differs from the one that will be given to us that we are healthy, though we are carrying it as AS. So they were given a special treatment. That was why I mentioned some kind of economy and how our father was exhausted, because most of the medication when it starts, it will only be given a kind of a first aid treatment before rushing them up to Jos here, the capital, then when we were young, for proper medication at Jamkwano, if I could remember. My siblings, actually, we used to have this kind of, when we were young, this kind of infight at home. If I call them sickler, actually some of them cried, because I heard what people were saying in the community and even in our schools. So the challenges is that people think they were possessed by demons. That was why they are in this kind of situation. But eventually we have got to understand that it's nothing but a genetically kind of a disease that can be avoided. Sometimes, or a lot of times, I intervened, because I could remember one of my siblings that died. His name was Abdullahi. He actually called me all the time to defend him and to fight for him when people call him sickler. So I actually intervened a lot of times for them, and stopping or fighting to tell people that they are humans like you people. So the stigmatization should stop. So I had to use some force at times, sometimes intimidation. I have the one I'm following from the same mother that died of the same illness, and some of my stepbrothers as well. They all went through and died eventually because of the disease, sickle cell anemia. And it's only one that survived now. The 15, we lost them eventually because of they couldn't bear for the crisis, and they had to give up. The only person we're living with is even with me around. Well, his name is Mustafa Yakubu, a surviving brother. He's 49 years of age now, and we have been together. And definitely, as I said earlier, about depression, and try to bring him closer, because all they want is love. So I lost 16 from stepmothers and 2 from the same mother. If you don't have the experience, you not understand what maybe somebody like me saying now. Gambling the situation, they will get to realize that it is not a job, because they went through the therapy. Then they will understand that sickle cell can be avoidable, but they refuse because they feel that the love is only carrying them away. But the reality is they will surely wake up to it if they continue. So anybody that have been tested AS genetically should avoid any AS, because they may have some children that may be healthier like them, but they are carriers. But the ones that will come with the sickness or with the illnesses and the disease will be severe than any other thing they could think of as a crisis. The problem is as simple as it is. AS is already a carrier. And giving birth to any child, the AS that will be given to will be much of SS than a healthy AS like I am sitting here, because they will become more chronic. The disease will accumulate in a position that after giving birth to a child, they will be exhausted. I only pray if the child will even grow up to a maturity stage. I have seen it practically how easy our parents were after losing the child because of the stress they went through. They were not feeling as if something had happened. They will feel as if they have come to at least terms with realities that they have to be ease or to be at ease now because of what they went through. Most of my step-parents, I've seen them, a mother saying that the child should just die and rest because of what she is going through and what the child is going through as well. So I've seen a kind of a relief after the death of most of the children that went through the crisis in my family. There are two things involved. First, I pity as a siblings that we have been together. Secondly, economically, the whole family gets affected. Because going through the crisis, they may spend 2, 3, 4 months having the same kind of situation, day in, day out, because of the chronic situation of the sickle cell anemia in them. So economically, you have to be exhausted, because all advice will come from the medical practitioner of telling you to get this, get that, do this, do that. So after exhausting, as I said earlier, the family will tend to have a little relief or so, because you will see it practically in their activities of this may be a relief to them. But economically, and we as siblings in the family would love to have, or we always want him to be in a better position. But because the situation is so critical, we sometimes pray for him to go and rest. This is how we have gone through all these years with most of my siblings that have sickle cell anemia. Religion only plays a role of like advisors. They'll only advise you and to tell you that this is the repercussion if you continue. Because I've seen it from the both religion, of which both the Islam and the Christian will tell you to go and check on your genotype. What happened, one of my close friends is AS, and the lady he met was AS as well. So they decided to come together. And I advised him professionally, said that this is the experience we have had. In my family, most of my siblings were sickle cell anemia, and a chronic one for that matter. Our parents were healthy, but be careful on this selection you want to make. It's a spouse, and it will be forever. But the issue and the crisis you go through in terms of handling a child that have sickle cell anemia is unbearable. He only just close his ears and keep on. But I will advise more people that they should only not see it like this. It's a real and a most dangerous and stressful one when it comes to sickle cell anemia. Once if you have a child that is a sickle cell anemia, the highest grace you will have is for 4 to 6 months, sometimes a year plus. But the crisis will start when the boys start growing, because as I told you earlier, it's from the bone marrow. So once the bone is growing, that is when the crisis will be triggered and will start. So everything that has to do with the health being of you as a family will be in disarray, because every attention goes to the boy or the baby, to be precise, while the crisis will keep on persisting, because it has a lot to do with growth. All ramifications, everything that has to do with you squarely will be affected. Your health being as a father, the health being of the whole family, economically, and everyone among in the family will be devastated, affected strongly by this disease. So this is what I know the religion have played a vital role in it, only advising. But a very close look or very close advice from somebody that you know much will give you a strength of knowing who to select in marrying. But if somebody refuses to, then definitely eventually things will go the other way. Relationship is quite advisable when somebody is different from the topic we are discussing here. If your genotype is AA, you are free to marry even SS, because the gene or the children that you will produce in the union will definitely be carriers, but not sickle cell victim as we have been seeing them around us. So advising somebody about having relationship with a carrier or a sickle cell anemia victim is based on his genotype. If he is AS, then you can caution him by advice, because most of the people don't believe in what we are saying until they happen to face the realities themselves. So AA can marry AS and SS without any much problem, but SS or AS cannot marry AS and go scot-free because of the situation. So the advice is always a paramount if truly we want a safer situation before if truly we need a better situation than we were in the past, then the advice and more enlightenment should move on. I had a story of a lady that got married to a guy because they were in love. And eventually they were all AS. So they produced a chronic SS, which down the line, only 3 years, they had no feelings for each other because of how exhausted they were. So when the baby died, they had to go free and they have to go separate ways because of what they went through when they give birth to that baby. They were in love actually, but the event and what you will go through after giving birth to a baby with the same disease, you get to understand that the reality is far better than your just fiction, which is called love. The carriers, which are the SS or maybe the AS, because I combine them together. The carrier is the AS, while the victim is the SS. So if they decided not to have children, they are free, because what they will produce is what will bring them more closer to realities and crises. If they said they will not want to have any children, they are free. But anybody that knows this is the condition and wants to still go on and give birth, I'm telling you that he will come back with a sad story of himself. If anybody is talking about having a wife or having a husband that is a carrier, he should rethink, because everything you see has been designed. And as I said earlier, that the genetic problem of this sickle cell is not something that you can solve it or even change any part or any organ in the system of human being. It comes right deep in the bone marrow, so it cannot be changed, but it can be avoidable. SS is not a death sentence. Sickle cell anemia is not a death sentence. It's not a disease that will wear one person psychologically to be derailed. My name is Hamza Yakubu, and a professional tailor and an advocate of stop the stigmatization on sickle cell victims or patients. Stigmatization is uncivilized. Stop the stigma and put a smile on somebody's face.